This happened about a month ago. I am a marine biologist, and my team and I were on the Endeavor. It was an old research ship, and I didn't take care. I was excited for the dive. It felt like we could find something groundbreaking below the waves. The day started like any other. I woke up in my cramped quarters. The ship rocked slightly as it swayed with the waves. I could smell salt and rust. We geared up and slipped into the water. It was cold but familiar. I thought we were in for another regular day of collecting samples. During the day, everything seemed normal. We gathered plenty of specimens, and I felt satisfied. But later that evening, while sorting through my samples, I saw something strange. Among the other collected materials was an organism, pulsating softly. It was deep purple and had a texture I didn't recognize. A chill ran down my spine. Maybe it was rare, or maybe it was more than that. I felt uneasy, but I brushed it off. I had work to do. The following days were exhausting. I started having nightmares about the specimen. I'd wake in a cold sweat, unsure of what was real. Some crew members claimed they heard humming noises at night. I thought they were just tired, but things changed. Shadows flickered in the water when I dove, and I felt like eyes were watching me. I couldn't explain it, but it made me uneasy. Then came that one evening during a night dive. David, one of our crew members, vanished. He looked pale and scared as he entered the water. Nobody saw what happened next. When we searched, we found nothing, just a strange, sticky residue floating in the area he had entered. My heart raced as panic settled in. I could feel something as presence beneath the surface, and it didn't feel right. Now, I feel crushed under the weight of our discovery. The organism holds secrets we shouldn't have uncovered. I could sense the fear creeping into my team. They seemed different. I felt isolated, and it consumed me little by little that I kept thinking about the specimen. It throbbed in my mind like a heartbeat. Am I losing my grip on reality? I couldn't shake the feeling that it was connected to David's disappearance. Something was wrong. Late one night, I heard a knock, but it didn't come from the door. It was from the water. My heart raced as I stepped outside. I forced myself to look. There it was, a monstrous shape rising from the depths. I had so much fear, I could hardly breathe. The creature was unlike anything I had ever seen. My mind screamed to run, but my body didn't move. It was too late for that. I stood frozen in place, staring at something that should never have existed. It rose higher and higher, revealing twisted limbs and glowing eyes. I wished I had never dived that day. I thought about David. I thought about the specimen. They were all connected, and I was terrified. What had we brought to the surface? What had we awakened? I was swallowed by the dark. The only thing I could do was wait for what came next. I couldn't take my eyes off the creature. It hovered just below the surface, shifting like a liquid shadow. The glowing eyes locked onto mine, and I felt like they were boring into my soul. Every instinct shouted at me to run, yet I stood there, rooted in place. "Megan," I heard a voice call out from the ship. It was Claire, one of my teammates. She sounded frantic, but I could barely focus. I glanced back at her, then at the creature again. It was still there, swaying gently, almost inviting me closer. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. "Get back here," Claire yelled. "We need to get you on board." The urgency in her voice snapped me out of my trance. I turned and swam towards the boat as fast as I could. Each stroke felt heavy and labored. I never looked back. Once on deck, I gasped for air. Claire grabbed my arm, her face pale. "What did you see?" "I don't know," I stammered, feeling shaky. It was enormous. It had these eyes. I couldn't articulate it. The memory felt hazy and unreal, like a nightmare. I focused on the ship around me, trying to shake off the cold grip of fear. "We need to leave," she said, glancing nervously at the water. "There is something wrong out there." I nodded, feeling a chill pass through me. It was true. As the crew gathered their gear, I saw that fear reflected in their faces. We all felt at the weight of the unknown. Everyone hurried, packing up equipment and following orders. I barely registered the commotion. My mind was still racing with thoughts of that creature. Just then, a loud splash echoed from the side of the ship, freezing the entire crew. I felt my heart stop. I turned slowly, dreading what I would see. There was again a massive wave crashing against the side, though nothing was there. It was as if something beneath the surface was stirring, a force pushing against the hull. What was that? A crew member whispered, eyes wide with alarm. I don't know. My voice trembled, and I could see panic rising among my teammates. We would have to face whatever it was out there. Before I could gather my thoughts, the ship lurched violently. We all staggered, gripping onto anything we could find. I stumbled, falling to one knee as the sound of cracking would amplify the tension. They're coming. Someone yelled. Get ready. I felt confusion rush over me. Who was coming? What did they mean? Then my blood ran cold. A series of shadows twisted and churned beneath the surface, moving with an unsettling grace. My breath caught in my throat as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. We were being watched. Panicking, I shouted, "We need to leave now. Get the engines running." But the howl of the wind swallowed my words. We were stuck in a nightmare, and nobody seemed to realize just how deep we were in. Finally, I took a deep breath and turned to face the water. What do you want? I screamed into the void, my voice trembling. Was it a warning? A plea? Did we awaken something that would demand a price? But the depths remained silent, and each moment stretched into eternity. I understood that this was only the beginning. Something was coming, and we might not be ready for it. I grabbed onto the railing, breathing hard as I tried to stabilize my racing thoughts. The crew was shouting orders, gathering what gear they could salvage from the chaos that had erupted on deck. I could see fear in their eyes, just like mine. Get the emergency flares, Claire yelled, her voice sharp amid the din of panic. We need a signal for help. She looked at me, her expression a mix of determination and dread. You stay here, Megan. I'll go check the engine room. Wait, I called after her, but she was already moving, disappearing into the belly of the ship. The others began to scatter, some running to the rear deck, others struggling with the radar equipment. But I felt frozen, overwhelmed by the sound and the impending dread. Then the water around the boat erupted. A massive form surged upwards, breaking through the surface with ferocity. I stumbled back, my eyes widening in horror. It wasn't merely a shadow now. It was real. The creature, whatever it was, breached the water with a loud, guttural roar. The glimmer of its scales flashed in the muted sunlight, revealing twisted fins and jagged edges. It was enormous, far larger than I could have imagined. And those eyes, dark, pulsing orbs that seemed to bore into every crew member, into our very souls. Everyone back, I screamed, my voice barely breaking through the sound of splashing water. But it was too late. The crew was paralyzed, immobilized by the sight. I turned and saw Claire, her silhouette barely visible in the shadows of the engine room door. Then the creature turned its attention to me. I felt a wave of heat, a palpable pressure that seemed to suck the oxygen from the air. My heart raced in my chest. Every instinct told me to flee, but I stood there, frozen once again. Suddenly, I noticed something shimmering in the water beside the creature. It was another object, smaller but equally foreboding. As the creature began to retreat, moving with a menacing elegance, the shimmering object drifted closer. Curiosity sliced through my fear. I leaned over the edge, trying to see what it was. When I saw it, an object half buried in the sand, just below the surface. It looked like an old-fashioned compass, its needles spinning erratically. I felt a rush of urgency. What did that mean? Who would leave such a thing behind? Was it a warning? The scream of the crew brought me back to reality. Megan, come on. Claire's voice pierced through my mind. I turned back toward her, but the urgency in her tone sent another chill racing through me. I could hear commotion behind me. The creature was no longer swimming away, it was circling back. My breath quickened. I had to make a decision. Claire, I shouted. We have to, but before I could finish, the water exploded again, sending a violent spray into the air. I grabbed onto the railing for support. As shadows converged beneath us, a new splinter of fear took hold. I could see more movement below, more than just the original creature. The depths were coming alive, and we might not have much time left. I pulled away from the edge and forced myself toward Claire, my heart pounding in my chest. Something dark was awakening out there, and I had a horrible feeling that we were about to get caught in its grasp. There was only one thing to do. Whatever was hidden in those depths needed to be uncovered. But I wasn't sure we would survive it. I sprinted toward the engine room, my shoes clattering against the metal floor. Claire's figure was indistinct, but I could hear her rummaging through the equipment. Desperation urged me forward. I pushed the door open, ready to pull her back, but the scene inside stopped me cold. The engine room was a mess. Tools and wires lay strewn everywhere, but it wasn't just the chaos that held me. Claire was hunched over the control panel, her fingers dancing over switches. A faint red light was blinking steadily, growing brighter with each passing second. "Megan," she shouted, glancing up at me. "I think I can reset the engine. We can get out of here." Her eyes were wide, filled with an urgency that mirrored my own fear. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were in more danger than just malfunctioning machinery. I turned back to the door, the outside chaos echoing in my ears. "Claire, something is out there," I cried, waving my arms. "The creature, it's coming back." At that moment, the floor shook violently. It felt like the ship was groaning under the weight of something immense. Claire stumbled, arms flailing, and I rushed to catch her. "We need to move," I insisted, pulling her toward the exit. But just as we reached the door, a shadow glided past the window, massive and swift. "Did you see that?" I gasped, clutching the doorframe. The dread in my chest tightened like a vice. Claire nodded, eyes darting back and forth, eyes pleading. "We can't abandon ship," she said, raising her voice over the noise. "But we can't stay here either." Before I could respond, the reverberations intensified. It felt like the entire ship would split apart. And then, above the cacophony, I heard a shriek. Not like the growl from before. No, this one was sharper, more desperate. "What was that?" Claire's voice trembled as we exchanged fearful looks. "I don't know, but we have to act." I suddenly remembered the compass I had seen. Without thinking, I blurted out, "The compass. It could lead us to something that can help." But the look on Claire's face shifted from fear to urgency. "Where is it?" "By where the creature emerged," I said, hesitant. I could barely believe I was suggesting this. But if there was any chance it might offer answers, or at least a way out, I had to try. Just then, the water around the boat surged again, slapping against the hull violently. We both flinched at the noise, a reminder of the danger closing in. "Okay, let us go," Claire said, and somehow I knew she felt it too. There was no choice left. We pushed through the door into the tumult outside. The crew was still in a panic, some clinging to their posts, others just staring blankly at the water. I shoved my way to the edge of the ship, scanning the roiling sea. The compass, if it was even still there, could be swallowed by the waves at any moment. I peered over the side, breathless. The creature was nowhere in sight, but something about the deep blue made my skin crawl. "Do you see it?" Claire asked, her voice strained. I shook my head, my heart racing. Then everything went dark. A shadow blotted out the sun above. I barely had time to react before the water exploded again, and something sharp clawed at the surface. "Claire!" I screamed, and just like that, the depths came alive. The water foamed wildly as I fought against the panic welling inside me. My senses screamed for me to get away, but I felt frozen, trapped between the chaos above and the horror below. Claire grabbed my arm and yanked me back, her face pale. "Stay close," she shouted, steering me toward the ship's stern, where the water raged less violently. The sounds of the crew's shouts mixed with the monstrous growl from below, creating a terrifying symphony of fear that I blinked, trying to clear my thoughts. The compass, I needed to find it. I had to believe it could guide us somehow. "We have to go back," I called to Claire, urgency filling my voice. "Back?" She looked at me like I was mad. "You want to go near where that thing is? Are you crazy?" "Listen," I said, scanning the area. "It could have the answers. We don't know what that thing wants or why it's attacking us. We have to figure this out." Before Claire could respond, another tremor shook the ship, almost throwing us off balance. The panic spread like wildfire among the crew. I could see a few of them scrambling for life vests and others huddled together, whispering in fear. All right, but we need a plan, Claire pleaded. We can't just rush in. The moment hung between us, thick with the weight of uncertainty. The last few seconds felt like an eternity. I could feel the terror starting to creep back in, clawing at my resolve. I'll distract it, I decided, my decision surprising even myself. You grab the compass. It has to be near where it broke through. Just find it and get back here. Megan, no, she said, panic lacing her tone. What if there's no time? I interrupted. We can't let it take us like this. We have to try. With a reluctant nod, Claire took a deep breath, and I felt my heart race. I angled myself toward the edge of the railing, knowing that all eyes my creature S included were now on me. Ready? I murmured. As I prepared myself, a low growl vibrated through the air. My entire body reacted at once, a primal instinct kicking in. From the shadows, that dark form emerged again, towering and menacing, its eyes glinting like knives in the murky water. Hey! I shouted, waving my arms wildly. The creature paused, its attention shifting toward me. I could feel Claire's breath hitch beside me, but I didn't dare look back. I had to keep it focused on me. Run! I yelled, trusting Claire to seize the moment. But before she could make a move, the creature lunged again, its massive body surging from the depths. That's when I saw a flash of metal shimmering in the sunlight, just as a monstrous arm shot toward Claire. No! I screamed, my heart pounding as everything blurred together: fear, adrenaline, desperation. I lunged for Claire, but I wasn't fast enough. The creature moved like a dark tide, and suddenly I was alone, staring into the abyss. I stood frozen, the chaos around me fading into a distant roar. I hadn't wanted to be separated from Claire, but now the void stretched endlessly, dark and foreboding. My heart sank into my stomach as fear clenched at my throat. Where was she? The creature's gnarled form loomed above me again, its eyes glimmering with an unsettling intelligence. My mind raced. I had to think. Claire! I shouted, my voice barely making it past the thrumming in my ears. There was no answer, only the sound of crashing waves and the creature's grunting growl. In a surge of desperation, I darted to the ship's edge. The water churned violently. It seemed to be alive. I could see the surface glistening, but still, the depths below obscured whatever lay beneath. I'd lost sight of Claire. I had to find her. Claire! I yelled again, but all that returned was a hollow echo. A few crew members were trying to steady themselves, their faces a mask of panic and confusion. I pushed past them, hoping to spot her, but all I could focus on was the creature circling below. Without thinking, I leaned over the edge. That was when I saw the compass. It glinted just a few feet from the ship's hull, lying precariously close to where the creature prowled. My heart raced. If I didn't get it, we would be trapped here forever. The dark form shuddered beneath the waves, its eyes now fixed on me. I could feel its hunger. I promised Claire I wouldn't be reckless. Yet the compass was our only hope. All right, I whispered to myself, I'll grab it and get back. It felt like a foolish gamble, but desperation fueled my resolve that I edged closer, heart pounding. The water looked deceptively calm, but I knew what lurked just beneath. Battles of doubt fought in my mind. What if I wasn't quick enough? What if the creature caught me? Questions nagged at me, but I couldn't let fear win that I reached for the compass, fingers brushing against the smooth metal. Just as I grasped it, a titanic wave crashed against the side of the ship, throwing me off balance. I barely managed to catch myself, but I heard the creature's roar reverberate in my chest. Go! Go! I urged myself. I turned to run, but before I could move, I felt something wrap around my ankle. Panic surged as I was yanked backward, tumbling into the frothy sea. The cold water engulfed me, shocking my senses. I struggled against the grip, surfacing only to catch a glimpse of the monstrous figure, its maw open wide, ready to strike. The compass slipped from my hand, sinking into the depths. No! I cried, swiping futilely at the air. I lost my safeguard, and now I was lost in the water, trapped between survival and the creature racing toward me. As I sank below the surface, I saw it something flickered in the dark, a shape even more grotesque than the creature chasing me. I gasped for breath, dread coursing through my veins. There was more to this than I had ever imagined. And as the murky water clouded my vision, I realized Claire might not be safe after all. The cold grip of the ocean wrapped around me as I struggled to free myself from whatever had pulled me under. My heart raced. I kicked frantically, eyes darting in the murky depths. I needed to see. I needed air. But all I could sense was the looming threat of something monstrous. Desperation gave my limbs a new strength. I twisted and turned, tearing away the unseen tendril that held me captive. With one final push, I broke the surface, gasping for air. My lungs burned, salt water stung my eyes, and every instinct told me to swim. Instincts, however, were overshadowed by the primal fear of what lurked beneath that I steered clear of the ship, hoping it would act as a barrier between me and the creature. I looked around wildly, searching for anything that could give me a clue about Claire's whereabouts. Panic twisted in my gut as I spotted the crew scrambling on deck, pointing and shouting. I couldn't afford to doubt. I had to find her. My gaze fell beneath the churning water again. That was when I caught sight of the flickering shape I had seen earlier. It glided gracefully, but there was nothing graceful about its jagged silhouette. As it moved, the water reshaped around it. Dark and sinister, I swam vigorously to the side of the ship, clinging to the hull for a moment of reprieve. "Claire!" I screamed again, voice breaking under the weight of fear. No answer, just the chaos above and the looming shapes below. Then it hit me. I remembered a small compartment in the ship's hold that Claire and I had checked earlier. It might have supplies, maybe even something to defend ourselves against that creature. But would I be able to make it there without being caught again? Barely treading water, I set my resolve. I could either sit here waiting to be swallowed by the sea or fight. A sudden thought ignited in my mind. If I could lure the creature away from the ship, maybe I could buy some time to find Claire. Taking a deep breath to steady myself, I began to shout again, this time louder, channeling all my fear and desperation into my voice. "Hey, over here!" I waved my arms wildly, splashing the water. I could feel the creature's attention shift. The water around me stirred as it approached, drawn to the noise. My heart raced, but I pressed on, shouting, "Come get me!" The shadow below surged forward, and I knew time was running out. I had to act fast. With one last glance around to survey my surroundings, I kicked towards the edge of the ship, hoping to stay just out of reach. Then I saw it a glint beneath the waves, caught between the ship and some debris. In that moment of clarity, I recognized it, the compass. It was sinking further, but at least I knew where it was. If I could slip beneath the surface again and grab it, maybe it would lead me back to Claire. Surely she would have the other piece, and we could find a way out. But as I made the descent, the predatory shadow loomed larger. My breath hitched. I had to be fast, or there would be no second chance. I reached for the compass, something cold wrapped around my wrist. This felt different, a new threat entirely. My stomach dropped. I was right back where I started, lost, terrified, and deeply sinking into unknown depths. The grip around my wrist tightened, and panic surged through me again. I couldn't tell if it was the creature below or was something else entirely. My mind raced. Was it another appendage of that monstrous shadow? I kicked against the sudden weight, fighting against the cold pull. But the more I struggled, the tighter it pulled me down. Desperation filled my lungs. I instinctively grasped for the compass, my only hope of finding Claire. My fingers brushed against it, just within reach. I wanted to shout, to call out, but the water filled my mouth, choking me. My chest felt heavy as the darkness threatened to consume me. In an effort to break free, I twisted my body and clawed at the tentacle still locked around my wrist. Suddenly, it released me. I shot upward, breaking the surface again, gasping for air. The salty sting in my eyes returned as I bobbed above the waves. I didn't pause. I was already swimming toward the glint of the compass. I reached the debris where the compass lay half submerged. My fingers wrapped around it, and I yanked it free from the debris. the cold metal sending a jolt through me. It felt like power in my hand, a link to Claire, but then I heard it a monstrous roar echoing from below. The water churned with an unnatural fervor, sending waves crashing around me. I glanced down, and the shadow was back, more furious than before, as if I had angered it. I looked around, frantically searching for anything to help me. The crew above continued to shout, but their words were lost in the roaring waves. I had to get to the ship. There had to be something there, something that could help us out. I dove back under, gripping the compass tightly. I swam toward the ship, each stroke feeling like I was pushing against a tide of despair. The shadow followed, its dark silhouette looming, waiting for me to falter. Midway to the ship, I realized I could feel a current not from the waves above, but something deeper. It was strong, pulling me down again, dragging me into its mysterious depths. I hesitated for a moment, a new fear coursing through me. Could there be another entryway below, a way to escape this menace? If I could just reach it, maybe Claire would be safe. With the compass in hand, I took a risk. I swam down and away from the ship into the darkness. The water grew colder, and the light above began to fade. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed to see if there was a way out, if this was my only chance. Then everything changed. Just as I caught sight of something ahead, a flash of light beneath the surface drew my attention. I kicked toward it, hope igniting in my chest. But before I could reach it, an explosion of bubbles erupted around me, sending the shadow into a frenzy. I tried to swim back, but the water shifted suddenly, trapping me in a whirlpool of chaos. Then the cold grip returned, pulling me away from the light, from my chance at survival, into the dark abyss below, and everything went black. I couldn't help but think, was this how it ended? Would I ever find Claire again? I blinked open my eyes, struggling against the weight of the water pressing down on me. I was still submerged, but now a strange stillness surrounded me. The world was gray and muted, with small particles drifting lazily around. I fought to remember how I had ended up here. I rubbed my eyes and took stock of my surroundings. I saw nothing but an endless expanse of darkness, stretching in all directions. Panic surged again as the memory of the shadow clawed its way back into my mind. Fear flooded my veins. I had to get out of this place. I kicked upward, fumbling to find the surface. To my relief, the water began to lighten as I climbed, and I broke through the waves again with a gasp. The salty air filled my lungs, and I scanned the horizon. There was no sight of the ship. It was gone. The compass, clutched like a lifeline, felt hot in my hand. I needed to get back. Just as I began to tread water, I noticed something strange in outline in the distance. It appeared to be submerged, just under the surface. As I squinted, I realized it was a shipwreck. My heart raced at the sight. Could this be what the creature had wanted me to find? Was there a chance Claire had ended up here? I swallowed my fear and began to swim toward it, the compass now guiding me with a steady pulse of warmth. The wreck was eerily beautiful, its wooden hull encrusted with barnacles and covered in a veil of seaweed. Sunlight spilled through breaks in the ship, creating shafts of light that illuminated what lay within. I hesitated at the edge, sensing a darkness embedded within the ruins, but the need for answers pushed me forward. I swam inside. My fingers brushed against something cold. A panel had shifted, revealing a small storage compartment. I pried it open, and to my shock, I found a tattered map and a rusted key. My hands trembled as I held them both. Was this a sign? But then the water started to churn around me. The sensation of being watched crawled up my spine. I spun around, searching the shadows that lingered at the edges of the light. The shadow from before? It had returned. Just as I turned to flee, a deafening roar shook the water. A monstrous silhouette, larger than any creature I had seen, loomed in the darkness beyond the ship's frame. It was rising, and I could see the malevolent glow of its eyes piercing through the gloom. Instinct kicked in. I bolted back toward the surface, heart pounding as I raced against the darkness. The compass felt like a weight now, pulling me down, and I fought to release my grasp. But the shadow surged toward me, water swirling chaotically around us. In those frantic seconds, I realized I was running out of time. Claire was somewhere out there, and I had to get back to the surface. Either I would find her, or I would become another part of this sunken mystery. Desperation fueled my strokes, but just as I reached for the light, the shadow lunged forward, engulfing me in darkness. Once more did I clawed at the water, my breath fading. This wasn't tea over. Not yet. I had to survive. I had to find her. I was about to learn how deep the truth really went. Every nerve in my body screamed for me to swim up, but the weight of what loomed below held me captive. My heart raced as I fought against the tide, pushing against the darkness that threatened to engulf me. The water around me churned violently, and I felt the cold embrace of terror wash over me. I surfaced, gasping for air, my head spinning. Where was the ship? Where was Claire? The wreck loomed behind me, an eerie silhouette against the dim water, and my mind raced with thoughts of what it had hidden. I needed to make a choice: leave the wreckage behind and search for Claire, or dive deeper into the unknown. Claire! I screamed, my voice barely rising above the chaos of waves. No answer came. Desperation clawed at my gut. In a moment of resolve, I grabbed the compass tightly and swam toward the wreck. There had to be something inside that could point me back to her, a clue, a hint, anything. Each strike of my arms felt heavier, but I pressed on, kicking against the currents chasing me. I reached the shattered hull. I hesitated. Shadows flickered within, and a primal instinct urged me to turn away. But I couldn't abandon the possibility of finding Claire. I slipped inside, the water growing darker and colder as I entered the heart of the wreck. The wreck was a disarray of twisted metal and wood, but fragments of light penetrated through gaps, illuminating the ghosts of lost secrets. I scanned the area frantically, adrenaline coursing through my veins. My fingers brushed against the cool walls, searching for something, anything that could lead me back to her or reveal what had happened there. That was when I saw the same compass I had lost earlier, just beneath my fingertips. I grabbed it, clutching the cold metal as a flicker of hope ignited within me. Maybe it could still guide me. But as I turned back toward the exit, a chill skated down my spine. Something was watchful, shifting just beyond the light, and it felt hungry. A low growl reverberated through the water, and I froze. The creature had followed, its dark silhouette forming behind me in the shadows. The eyes glowed ominously, and I knew I was out of time. With swift determination, I bolted towards the exit, heart pounding in my chest. I broke through the wreckage just as it lunged for me, that I barely managed to escape the edge of the shipwreck, gasping for air, racing against the shadow that surged within inches of my heels. The water exploded around me as it struck, a torrent of fury churning beneath the waves. I didn't look back. I swam toward where I last saw the ship, propelled by fear and a spark of hope that Claire might still be there. As I neared the surface, I caught sight of the ship floating like a distant memory. It bobbed gently against the tide, but the crew was nowhere in sight. Panic set in. Had they left? Had they given up on us? I clawed my way to the hull, desperate to pull myself aboard. My fingers grasped at the final rung of the ladder, my body nearly too exhausted for the climb. With one last push, I pulled myself up and collapsed onto the deck, gasping for breath while the compass lay cool against my skin. The ship felt strangely silent. I pushed myself to my feet, heart pounding while my senses heightened. "Claire!" I called, voice hoarse and trembling. But only emptiness answered back. That I scanned the deck, searching for any sign of life. But there was nothing. The fear that had started as a flicker in my chest flared into flames of dread. No one was here. I stumbled towards the bridge, hoping I could find answers, or at least a radio to call for help. I crossed the deck. The shadows loomed still. The spectral glow of the creature pierced my thoughts. It hung just beneath the surface, as if waiting, lurking. Whatever had awakened beneath those waves was unleashed, and it hadn't finished with us yet. I felt the weight of its presence like a predator watching its prey. The ship's bridge was deserted, the radio crackling with static. I rushed towards the control panel, slapping buttons wildly, frantically trying to establish communication. This is Megan Hartman of the Endeavor. We need assistance. My breaths echoed in the mirrored emptiness, drowning in the uncertainty. But no response came as hopelessness washed over me. Memories of Claire flickered in my thoughts, her laughter, her curiosity about the deep, her spirit. Had she been taken? Could I do nothing to save her? Would I be powerless against whatever had claimed this place as its own? The ship rocked violently, and I felt a tremor ripple beneath my feet. The very fabric of the vessel felt alive, trembling under the weight of something unseen. I rushed to the edge, peering over the railing, and saw at those glowing eyes punctuating the dark water that I blinked back tears, the churning sea below a vortex of fear and wonder. What we stumbled upon. Why was this happening? Would I ever find answers? And then I turned, steeling myself. I couldn't let despair drown me here. If there was a chance to uncover the truth, to find Claire, I had to face the creature again. I had to dive back into the darkness. The wreck and its secrets might hold the key to our survival, or perhaps a bridge to the unknown. Taking a deep breath, I prepared to jump. I had no more answers than questions, only the instinct to push deeper, to fight against the tide of the unfathomable. And so, I leaped, the compass guiding me once more into the depths. Only time would tell if I'd find Claire, or if I would meet the fate planned within the shadows. But now, the shadows felt a little less daunting. I would face them. I had to.